What's up, guys? JK95 here. Tonight I present to you my official review of the movie Black Death. So the movie Black Death is set in England in the year 1348 when the Black Plague has ravaged the country, and this novice monk named Osmond is tasked with investigating rumors of a village across a marsh where the plague hasn't reached yet, and reports of necromancy and witchcraft in said village. And this movie stars Sean Bean and Carice Van Houten, both Game of Thrones actors, wonderful Game of Thrones actors. And spoiler alert, Sean Bean dies in this movie yet again. I must warn you though, this movie is not for the faint of heart, as we see an attempted witch burning taking place when Ulrich, Sean Bean's character, Osmond, and company see this mob attempting to burn a witch, and Ulrich removes her from the pyre and gives her a quick, clean death because, according to Ulrich, she would have been dead anyway, either way. And we have Osmond, our novice monk, Ulrich, our emissary for the Archbishop, and like I said before, Ulrich, Osmond, and their band of fighters are going to this village on the other side of a marsh where the plague hasn't reached yet, and they're led by this witch who's played by Carice Van Houten. We see all these torture instruments, and basically Sean Bean dies a pretty horrific death in this movie, and normally I don't spoil it, but this is something I'm going to spoil for those of you who want to see it. Sean Bean's character Ulrich, after a big mishap, he gets his limbs tied to two horses going in opposite directions, and after a series of confessions, the horses run in the opposite directions, tearing his limbs off and causing a blood sprays to occur, and Ulrich, aka Sean Bean's character, to die of blood loss, and all the witches and necromancers in the town are like tortured, burned at the stake, etc., etc. Meanwhile, the head witch, played by Carice Van Houten, escapes, and there's a sad beginning in this movie where a young lady named Avril comes to Osmond's monastery seeking refuge from the plague, and she tells him to come meet her by this tree, and she'll wait there every day for a week for him, and then he finds her dead, and when the necromancer brings her back from the dead, it's not a pretty sight. Like I said before, this movie is not for the faint-hearted, and it's a very dark movie, involves a lot of torture, a horrific Sean Bean death. But Sean Bean is known for dying in pretty much every role that he's been in, like Eddard, Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. We all know how he went. He played Boromir in Lord of the Rings. He dies in Black Death. He voiced Martin Septim in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and died in that too. Wanna know how he died in Oblivion? Like Sean Bean's character, Martin Septim used an amulet as a weapon, and basically he turned into a dragon, fought this four-armed monster with an axe, and killed it, and then the dragon turned into a statue. Well, that's it for today, folks. If you don't mind the spoilers that I put out for the movie Black Death, I highly recommend seeing it if you have a very strong stomach like me, and are a history buff like me, and have an interest in that time period. And my final thoughts on Black Death: 2 solid thumbs up. Sean Bean and Carice Van Houten both did a great job, and this is before they were on Game of Thrones. And I noticed this quite a bit. Some of these Game of Thrones actors stuck together before coming on the show. Like in another movie, Kingdom of Heaven, we have Alexander Siddig, who played Prince Doran Martell on Game of Thrones as Imad ad-Din al-Isfahani, Salahuddin's secretary in Kingdom of Heaven. And we also have Ian Glenn in Kingdom of Heaven at the very end, playing Richard the Lionheart. Ian Glenn, you probably know him as Ser Jorah Mormont on Game of Thrones. And then some of these other actors were also in Game of Thrones, like Michelle Farley, who played Catelyn Stark. A couple others. I think one Harry Potter actor who was like a background character played the Night's Watch deserter from the pilot episode of Game of Thrones. Like, and also, even though the actor I'm about to mention isn't a Game of Thrones actor, Brendan Gleeson, who played Reynold of Chatillon on Kingdom of Heaven, he also played Mad-Eye Moody in the Harry Potter franchise and the county sheriff in Lake Placid. So these actors tend to stick together, I noticed. My final thoughts on Black Death: 2 solid thumbs up. If you have a strong stomach and a strong mind and a heavy interest in medieval history, I highly recommend watching this movie. If you have a weak stomach and are faint-hearted, I would not recommend it at all, and I would certainly not recommend it to children. Like, the absolute youngest I'd go would be a mature 15, 16, 17-year-old, but that's about as young as I'll go. And that's it for tonight, folks. Once again, this is my first video on DailyMotion, and this will be going up on my YouTube channel as well. Be sure to follow me on DailyMotion, link in description below. Hit those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. Be sure to have this video on repeat. That's all for tonight, folks. Peace.